the GOAT of every NBA decade. All right? So the moment I saw Kobe Bryant's face up there, I immediately started laughing. The reason I started laughing was because wasn't this the same Bleacher Report that ranked Kobe Bryant as the 11th best player of all time? I have a larger point that I want to get to, but I just want to refresh some people's memory on this. So I begin to go through the slides. Let's go through the slides together. In the 1940s, they have George Mikan. All right? Next one. 1950s, they have Bob Cousy, who J.J. Redick was making fun of.
What if I told you one of the biggest sports media outlets accidentally destroyed its own all-time NBA rankings? Because that's exactly what happened. Bleacher Report recently released its list of the greatest player from every NBA decade, and one selection instantly caught the attention of basketball fans everywhere. For the 2000s, they chose Kobe Bryant. Now here's where things get interesting. This is the same Bleacher Report that previously ranked Kobe Bryant outside the NBA's top 10 players of all time. So here's the obvious question. How can someone be the greatest player of an entire decade, but somehow not be one of the 10 greatest players ever?
The 1960s, they have who? Bill Russell. The 1970s, they have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. The 80s, now this one is interesting. They have Larry Bird. I would have said Bird and Magic. I would have made an exception for this one, but nevertheless, they have Larry Bird. All right, let's go to the next one. The 90s, they have Michael Jordan. All right, now this is where it gets interesting. In the 2000s, they have Kobe Bryant. Right? This is Bleacher Report. Okay, and I'm going to get to some of the comments below.
Today we're breaking down that contradiction, looking at the arguments for Kobe, Tim Duncan, and LeBron James, and asking whether Bleacher Report accidentally proved its own rankings don't make sense. Let's get into it. When Bleacher Report posted its GOAT of every NBA decade graphic, most fans expected controversy. That's normal. Every basketball list creates debate. The 1940s featured George Mikan. The 1950s went to Bob Cousy. The 1960s belonged to Bill Russell. The 1970s belonged to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. For the 1980s, they selected Larry Bird, although many fans would argue Magic Johnson deserves equal consideration.
And then in the next slide, they have link is in bio for the 2010s and 2020s. And we're going to get to that momentarily. But I want to get through some of the comments. One fan wrote, Wardell definitely the GOAT of the 2010s. Now, this person here is most likely a LeBron James fan. Tim Duncan is the best player of the 2000s. Please stop overrating Kobe and disrespecting Tim Duncan's 2 MVPs, 3 championships as the main guy while Kobe played with Shaq.
The 1990s obviously went to Michael Jordan. Then came the 2000s. Instead of Tim Duncan, instead of Shaquille O'Neal, instead of a young LeBron James, Bleacher Report chose Kobe Bryant. Then the 2010s went to LeBron James. And the current 2020s were given to Nikola Jokic. At first glance, that's a completely reasonable list. But once you remember Bleacher Report's previous all-time rankings, everything starts falling apart. Think about it for a second. The NBA has existed across several different eras. If you're considered the greatest player of an entire decade, that means you outperformed every superstar during that 10-year span. You're essentially saying that player defined basketball during that era. So how does that same player suddenly become the 11th best player ever? It simply doesn't add up. Now, that doesn't automatically mean every decade winner has to rank above everyone else. Magic Johnson wasn't selected for the 1980s despite being universally viewed as a top 10 player. Tim Duncan wasn't selected for the 2000s, even though many people place him comfortably inside their all-time top 10.
LeBron should be the 2000s, the 2010s, the 2020s. Let's keep going. I feel the 2000s, is very clearly Timmy. Now, all of a sudden, LeBron fans are hyping up Tim Duncan. Now, Tim Duncan is the man all of a sudden. I want y'all to pay attention to what's happening, and I'm going to get to another post in a second. Right? This might be just on the 2000. While Kobe was struggling hard as F from the 2004 to 07, Tim Duncan was competing.
But Kobe's situation feels different because Bleacher Report itself admitted he owned the decade. And that's where the contradiction begins. What's even more interesting is this isn't a new opinion. Years ago, Bleacher Report published an article naming Kobe Bryant the NBA Player of the Decade. The article wasn't written by a lifelong Lakers fan. In fact, the writer openly admitted being a Portland Trail Blazers supporter. He even confessed that writing the article was painful because he'd spent years criticizing Kobe fans. Yet despite all of that personal bias, he still reached one unavoidable conclusion. Kobe Bryant was the player of the 2000s. The article explained why. Kobe started the decade winning championships alongside Shaquille O'Neal.
During the upcoming NBA All-Star Game, TNT is announcing their all-decade selection, including their pick for Player of the Decade. There is no question that this distinction belongs to Kobe Bryant. It's something I never thought I would write. I've spent years arguing that Kobe fans are amongst the most obnoxious and delusional of sports worshipers when they proclaim that number 24 is already greater than number 23, or when they dismiss all of Kobe's flaws as irrelevant hearsay. I still think they come across as brainwashed cult members.
Later, after Shaq left Los Angeles, Kobe rebuilt his legacy by leading a completely different Lakers team to back-to-back championships in 2009 and 2010. That's what made his resume unique. He proved he could dominate as the second option. Then he proved he could dominate as the unquestioned leader. Very few superstars have successfully reinvented themselves like that. Of course, not everyone agrees. Many fans immediately argued that Tim Duncan deserved the decade instead. And honestly, there's a legitimate basketball argument there. Tim Duncan won multiple championships, multiple MVP awards. He anchored one of the greatest dynasties in NBA history. His consistency was unbelievable. If someone tells you Tim Duncan was the greatest player of the 2000s, that's not an outrageous opinion. It's a respectable basketball discussion. But here's where things become interesting. Some fans who normally defend LeBron James suddenly started using Tim Duncan as their biggest argument against Kobe. That's ironic because for years those same discussions rarely centered around Duncan.
That being said, Kobe is still the player of the decade in the NBA. The only other realistic candidates are Tim Duncan and Shaquille O'Neal. LeBron James, as great as he is, will have to wait another decade. This is Bleacher Report. All three candidates have won regular season and finals MVPs if you consider the 21st century. Okay, so that's it. Now, I want to get to their new list because it's a long read, but I want to get to their new list.
Now Duncan suddenly becomes the perfect counter whenever Kobe receives praise. It shows how player debates often change depending on who's being compared. Then there were even bolder comments. Some fans argued that LeBron James should have been the greatest player of the 2000s, the 2010s, and even the 2020s. That's an incredibly difficult case to make. LeBron entered the league in 2003. By the end of the decade, he had established himself as the NBA's biggest superstar. But Kobe had already won multiple championships, finals MVPs, and continued competing for titles throughout that period. The timing simply favors Kobe's overall body of work during the 2000s. The 2010s? That's a different conversation. Bleacher Report awarded that decade to LeBron James, and there are plenty of reasons why. 4 MVP awards, multiple championships, 8 straight finals appearances, longevity, consistency, individual dominance. It's an impressive resume. But even there, another debate emerges. What about Stephen Curry? Think about everything Curry accomplished during the 2010s. For championships overall, with 3 coming during that decade. The first unanimous MVP in NBA history.
He proved capable of being the ultimate second option to at the top of the decade, lost the generational big man who won all the finals MVPs from the three-peat and eventually carried an entirely different Los Angeles Lakers team to back-to-back titles in 2009 and 2010. The determination to prove he was capable of being the guy on another championship winner was a testament to Kobe's competitiveness. He did that twice. And that drive to be the best is what secured the spot and made him one of the absolute best players in NBA history.
He completely changed how basketball is played. Teams across every level of basketball suddenly prioritized three-point shooting because of Curry's influence. Very few players have ever changed the sport itself. Does that make Curry the greatest player of the 2010s? Some fans believe so. Others still choose LeBron because of his complete all-around dominance. Again, reasonable people can disagree. That's what makes basketball debates so entertaining. The bigger issue isn't whether Kobe or Duncan deserved the 2000s, or whether LeBron or Curry owned the 2010s. The bigger issue is consistency. If a media outlet says Kobe Bryant defined an entire decade, shouldn't that same accomplishment carry significant weight when creating an all-time ranking? Because otherwise, what exactly does Player of the Decade mean? Is it just a fun graphic? Or is it an actual basketball evaluation? If it's a serious evaluation, then those rankings should align. If they don't align, fans are naturally going to question the credibility of both lists. Another part of the discussion centered around Kobe's leadership and competitiveness. Throughout his career, Kobe earned a reputation for embracing the toughest assignments. One famous example came during Team USA's Redeem Team. Rather than focusing only on scoring, Kobe embraced defending the opposing team's best perimeter player. His intensity helped establish the defensive identity of that Olympic squad. Whether fans rank Kobe above LeBron, Duncan, or anyone else, very few people question his competitive mindset. That relentless mentality became one of the defining characteristics of his career. At the end of the day, this debate isn't really about hating one player or glorifying another. It's about consistency. If Kobe Bryant is truly the greatest player of the 2000s, then that accomplishment deserves meaningful recognition in all-time discussions. If Tim Duncan deserves the decade instead, make that argument. If LeBron deserves multiple decades, explain why. If Stephen Curry's impact outweighs LeBron's longevity, present the evidence. Basketball debates become interesting when they're built on consistent standards. They become frustrating when those standards constantly change depending on which player is being discussed. And that's exactly why Bleacher Report's latest graphic sparked so much conversation. Not because Kobe Bryant was selected, but because that selection raised a simple question that still hasn't been answered. How can the greatest player of an entire NBA decade not be one of the 10 greatest players in NBA history? That's the contradiction fans are talking about. And until someone provides a convincing explanation, this debate isn't going anywhere. So now it's your turn. Who truly owned the 2000s? Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, or someone else? And does being the greatest player of a decade automatically make you a top 10 player of all time? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more NBA debates and breaking basketball news.